So the big question for my followers on social media, and especially my clients and people who have been inspired with all the things that I've done with my hair, from locking it and coloring it and styling it. I mean, I've been a person who has had an opportunity to express myself with my crown. Recently, as a natural hair expert, there are some things that I've gotten to understand more over the years, the way we as women have, especially the colonized mind or enslaved mind, and when we're not woke, I guess the public would probably relate to that. When we move unconsciously, the things that we've done to our hair, not knowing that some of these perms are detrimental. For me personally, I was allergic to perms. I permed my hair when I was 18 because I had money. Finally, I have a job. My mom told me I should not, but I was like, I got my money. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I sure did. And that was the first time I had an experience where the chemicals burnt me, and I ended up in the hospital. And then I was clear that that's why my mom was saying don't, because I'm her child and she knows that I have sensitive, allergies. So this chemical that was put in my hair, in fact, the lady who did it touched my hair because my hair had been natural right up until that point. When I was 18, we were in Canada where people like us who take care of our hair almost didn't exist. I could probably count them in that city. I could count them. Like today, you could find a hairstylist almost on every block or any social media. But at that time in Canada, it was rare. In the early 90s, it was very rare for anybody to know how to manage our hair. So that's where I learned how to, because of necessity. That's how I learned to take care of my natural hair. By force, by necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so one of the things that happened with that chemical, I had to cut my hair, right? I had to cut it out. And that was a strange feeling because I was 18. At that point, we were so impressionable with the boys like me. We're so focused on boys as girls, right? At that age, at least I was, because I was popular. I was a popular African girl in my city. So yeah, it was hard. Like, I was ashamed. I had boils on my head because that perm. My whole face looked like someone had spilled oil on me, so I had sore pus coming down. I didn't realize that chemical got into my bloodstream, and that's why I had to get a shot. When I got to the hospital, they had to cut all my hair out. And so when my hair was permed, let me just say this, up until that point, my hair had never hung down, right? Unless I put heat to it or whatever. African hair goes upwards and outwards like the trees and vegetation towards the sun. And hair is used for protection, right? So this was the first time my hair just laid down. Oh my God. I had 48 hours of shaking my hair. It was about to my shoulder. As an African girl having long hair, oh my goodness. It was all mine. No braids, no additions, nothing. And here it is, we have to cut it out. We have to take all that stuff because the chemical is affecting me. It was traumatic. And then I had to go back to school. And at the time, I had to even find notes, the doctors to write notes that it should be okay for me to wear a hat on my head wrap, in the classes, and it's not like being disrespectful to anyone or, yeah. So that was the first. Prior to that, let me just go backwards. When I was 8, I intentionally cut my hair, rebelling. I didn't want to go to the salons. So I realized it's been my destiny to be in this, in this line. And then now, when people are asking me, why did I cut my hair or for what reason? Because when you get into your 50s, things happen to your body. But prior to this, there's a combination of things. I can't even say it's just one thing. But I could say when my husband and the time were trying to have a third child, I entered into this world of IVF because I was under pressure, under his pressure that he needed a baby and needed a baby right away, and it wasn't happening because I was in my 40s, so we had to seek support, and we started going through like the IVF way, and we just started, like, the first treatment that I was given was just to like regulate my cycle. So, and I'm sorry, after 30 days I started getting patches on my head, and I was depressed, and I was crying all the time. And in my second month of being on these pills, I started contemplating suicide, and I was like, whoa, really? Am I going through all this to make someone else happy and I'm miserable through it? That's what I was thinking. And I really had to soul search. I actually had to come back here, and this is my place to come find myself. I had to come back here and be like, what is it? And I remember my brother calling me and telling me, sis, why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this to yourself? He's got 3 children. He's like, what the hell? If I knew what I'm going through, like, he would have, he even mentioned he probably would make sure he never, permanently doesn't have it anymore. But I started getting patches in my hair, and now that was the first sign. I was like, what is that? So I went and I saw my dermatologist, and they said, oh, it's probably hormonal changes. And then the depression got too intense, and then we got into a heated conversation, and I think his words were, well, if I was going through that myself, I wouldn't do it. And I was like, wow, okay, I've been doing this, me thinking I'm doing this for him, or to make him happy, but ultimately I was really miserable. Like, I was split, right? I'm forcing my mind and my body, like, even these pills that I'm taking are reversing the clock in my body, which is not really supposed to be happening. I know people have to use IVF for whatever reasons, but for me at that particular time, it's like we were forcing my body we were going against time, right? We were trying to push the clock backwards. And I was contemplating suicide. What the hell? I have 2 other children. And I was like, I've got a son and a daughter. I'm like completely happy. I was asking myself when I came here, I was like, do I even want to have another child? And I was like, I don't ever want to go through that again. I don't want to be pregnant again. I really don't want to. Like, if I'm going to be honest to myself as a woman, but we're so scared as women to say that. Some of us, we just go along to get along, and we're not honest with ourselves, so we got to be in integrity and have deep conversations. And I think it wasn't until then when he said that and probably heard me say for the first time, although I had said it many times, that I'm doing this for you. I don't want this. And I think that's when he heard, like, wow, she's not even really for this. And we forewent that. But I had already started getting patches on my head. That was the first time. And I was concerned, and I did all the things, rebuild my body back, take proper vitamins, exercise, shift my diet, get my mind right. But literally 30 days after not messing with that crap, my mind was back to myself. I was back to myself. I was laughing again. I remember we spoke, and he said, so what do you think has changed in you lately, or something? What's the greatest thing that's happening lately? And I said, I'm laughing again. That's what I do all the time. I was crying all the time, those last couple of months. I was just crying. So we should look at that. Like, even we as humans need to, we should look at that. And it can only happen when we're intentionally grounded. So I had to come here to find myself, right? To be honest with myself, to be in integrity, and then to be able to go back and say, hey, this is where I really stand. I'm going along to get along because, you're working, you're running a business, okay, yeah, let's do it. Look, maybe did I really sit down? Or did I really express how I felt at the beginning? Did I take the time to do that? But, I'm doing so much that I know for sure I wasn't really paying my attention to what I wanted in my deepest self. So anyway, so I healed back, and then come fast forward, 2 years ago, my niece and my nephew moved in with me, and I was, supporting them. They're going to college and things like that, and I didn't realize the stress of living with people, or like if it would have been one thing if they were young adults and independent, but they were young adults and highly dependent, right? And so I had to like take them from like, this is how you wash dishes, this is how you do this. I was not prepared for that level of commitment at the time, and I had just gone through a whole lot and finally stabilized myself. Moved into my new home, so happy to be there with my children, and then this took place, and we were so excited. We were so excited of the opportunity because we've lived before many times together, but there were other hands, and here it was me and them and the work that was required to settle in a new home and to welcome my new babies, my sweethearts, and help them adjust and cope so that they could be college ready.